And according to the government statistics, there are only 19 out of every 1,000 pregnancies that end in abortion. If you do your math, it's only 1.96% or less than 2% of pregnancies end in abortion. So they're saying here that less than 3% of white unmarried and less than 2% of black unmarried women give up their babies for adoption. So what is the problem here? If we have 2% of all pregnancies ending in abortion, this 2% of babies can go to homes that want babies. I mean, there are millions. There are, and again, stating in the earlier argument against abortion, it stated that 1.5 million American families wanting to adopt a child. And we know that millions of babies have been aborted over the years, and these could have gone to loving families who really wanted a baby, who really wanted a child, and these children are not given a choice. They are just killed by the mothers, and mostly for convenience, which they dispute, but we'll get into the facts about that a little bit later. So we're talking about, this one is talking about adoption is not an alternative abortion, which is a lie on its face, which is their third point. Point number 4, abortion is a safe medical procedure. The vast majority of women, 88%, who have abortion do so in their first trimester. Medical abortions have less than 0.05% risk of serious complications and do not affect a woman's health or the future ability to become pregnant or give birth. Now, I take severe argument against this, that this is safe and it doesn't affect the health of the mother, but I'd like to go into some facts that are stated here a little bit later in the argument. It says there's a website called www.afterabortion.com. It's established by a woman who had 5 abortions and provides a place for women to help each other cope with the aftermath of their abortions. There are nearly 2.5 million posts on this website. They tell stories of how they were coerced into aborting their children by boyfriends, husbands, friends, and family. And believe me, the coercion by other people involved in the woman's life is a huge amount of the reason why women choose abortion, because they're being coerced through, I won't support you, I won't love you, you'll have to get out of our house. Women and mothers and fathers who kick their parents out of their home, or child out of their home for becoming pregnant. And so, this coercion is a terrible thing, and these parents, husbands, and boyfriends should be supportive of the life of children. Instead, they want to kill it for their own gain and for their own reasons, not the reason for the life of the baby or the health of the mother. Again, they describe how abortion was far from being a choice. They speak of overwhelming guilt, nightmares, excessive drinking, drug abuse, promiscuity, inability to form or maintain relationships, difficulty bonding with later children, and other ways in which they are suffering. You must visit the site and read the stories to know the real impact of abortion on women and commit parts of them to memory. So when they say that there's no long-range health problems, I would give you that the mental health problems, the guilt, and the other things that these women feel afterward is very profound. Okay, in number 5, this is the incest, rape, reason for abortion. In the case of rape or incest, forcing a woman made pregnant by this violent act would cause further psychological harm to the victim. And I would interject here, what about the physical harm and psychological harm to the baby? I guarantee it impacts them because it kills them. And they are, again, by the definition of medical science, a human life at the very moment of conception, and they are defined as such by the pro-abortion groups that say it is a human life at conception. So, again, it'll cause further psychological harm to the victim. Often a woman is too afraid to speak up or is unaware she is pregnant. Thus, the morning after pill is ineffective in these situations and therefore justify the woman having an abortion or the young lady having an abortion. Now, the percent of pregnancies resulting from rape is extremely, and I mean extremely small. It is about less than 0.5% of all pregnancies report that their abortion was because they became pregnant as a result of rape. So to use this argument to say that it should be okay in the case of rape or incest is a very weak argument, because less than 0.5% of all abortions that occur are because of this psychological harm to the victim, or a woman is too afraid to speak up when she is unaware that she is pregnant. Moving on to point number 6 of the pro-choice, pro-abortion argument. Abortion is not used as a form of contraception. Pregnancy can occur even with responsible contraceptive use. Only 8% of women who have abortions do not use any form of birth control. That is due more to individual carelessness than to the availability of abortion. Now let's go into these numbers. 8% of women who have abortions do not use any form of contraception, and it's due to irresponsible behavior. Here is information from the Guttmacher Institute. This is the abortion industry's own research group that gives these numbers. And they have done 2 studies in the past 25 years concerning abortion. And they state in these studies that only 7% of women reported that their abortion was because of a health reason or a possible health problem with the baby, and less than 0.5% reported their abortion was because they became pregnant as a result of rape. 92%, and this is straight from the Guttmacher Institute, which is the pro-abortions research group, 92% of abortions in America are purely elective, done on healthy women to end the lives of healthy children. And this is from their own statistics by their own group. So they're coming on here in one of their arguments, and they're saying only 8% of women who have abortions do not use any birth control, and it is due more to an individual carelessness than to the availability of abortion. So they are basically saying that only 8% are just choosing this as an elective procedure because of just wanting to get rid of the baby. And the Guttmacher Institute states that 92% of abortions in America are purely elective, done on healthy women to end the lives of healthy children. And I've heard some of these arguments where some of these women have 5 children already. They get pregnant. They don't want another child just because they don't want to raise another child. So they kill the baby. Some are saying that, it's just too close between babies. I'm going to kill this one and wait another 2 years to have another child because it would be inconvenient to have this child at this time. And these are actual arguments made by real life human people. Sorry about that. I had an incoming call from someone that I had to take, and I apologize for the dead air there. But getting back to this, adoption is not basically. I got to get back on track here. I'm kind of screwed up. Just bear with me for just a moment. Okay, we talked about 8% using abortion. Okay, point number 7 of the pro-choice 10 arguments for abortion. The ability of a woman to have control of her body is critical to civil rights. Take away her reproductive choice and you will step onto a slippery slope. If the government can force a woman to continue a pregnancy, what about forcing a woman to use contraception or undergo sterilization? Now, obviously, we wouldn't ever force a woman to use contraception or undergo sterilization. But as far as the issue of abortion, if Roe versus Wade was overturned, and I believe it will be overturned just due to the collapse clause stating that it is not a baby, it is not a human being in the initial Roe versus Wade decision, again, I believe it will be overturned, and that goes back to the states, that if it is overturned at the federal level, then the states are the ones who will decide whether or not the child will be, or whether or not that state will allow abortion. And that is why it is so important that we vote for public officials at the local and state level. The local levels are the feeder groups that your local, mayors and your local city officials, you need to make sure that they are pro-life when you're voting for them. And the reason for that is that they're the feeder systems into the state house, which then are the feeder systems into the national house. So we need to act locally to affect this. And we can only do so by getting out people and acting politically as Christians to get out the vote for pro-life. So again, overturning Roe v. Wade does not do away with abortion as the pro-choice argument goes. It goes, the decisions go back to the states, and the states can make laws and are making laws restricting abortion. And we see this in Iowa, we see this happening in Texas, and we see this in many other states where abortions are being restricted by people who are pro-life in those states. So I called you to action in these areas of overturning these statutes on a local level. And let's continue on. In number 8, taxpayer dollars are being used to enable poor women to access the same medical services as rich women, and abortion is one of these services. Funding abortion is no different from funding a war in the Mideast. From those who are opposed, the place to express outrage is in the voting booth. So again, what they're stating is just what I just stated. If you are outraged against abortion, you need to start voting. The number of people who actually exercise their right to vote in the United States is surprisingly small. In some of these congressional districts where there are races concerning, seats in Congress of some states, fewer than 800 people vote in these elections, and there are millions of people in these districts. 800 people.